To program in Python, you need three things on your computer. First, you need to install Python. Then, you need a code editor to type code. And finally, you need to know how to execute the programs you wrote. Let's start with Python. In order to execute Python programs, Python needs to be installed on your machine. I recommend you to always download Python from the official website, and here you see the address. I'll install Python on my machine now. Notice I am downloading Python 3.12.4. By the time you install Python, there may be a newer version, and that is fine. Just install the version that is offered at the time you visit python.org. I save the package in my Downloads folder. I open my Downloads folder and double-click the package. I click through the installer and accept all default settings. When Python is installed, I close all windows. Now I install a code editor. There are many free code editors to choose from. If you do not know which one to install, I recommend using Visual Studio Code. The reason I recommend Visual Studio Code is because it is a popular code editor, and when you need help with it, there are many resources to be found online. It also has excellent support for Python. I recommend you to download it from the official Microsoft website. I download it to my Downloads folder. I open my Downloads folder and double-click the package. I click through the installer and accept all default settings. Now that Python and Visual Studio Code are installed, it is time to write some code and test if everything works. I start Visual Studio Code. When you start Visual Studio Code, it might look different from what you see here. Don't worry about that. User interfaces can always change a bit over time. Now, the first thing I need to do is open a folder where I'm going to store my code. I click Open Folder, navigate to my Documents folder and create a Python folder here. Visual Studio Code asks me if I trust the author of the folder. Since I just created the folder myself, I do. I create the first Python file. Python files end with .py. Visual Studio Code recognizes this and asks to install the Python extensions. I click Install. The extensions are installed and I click on the Explorer button to see my Python folder. I click helloworld.py and type my first code. Notice this white dot here. It indicates that the file is not saved yet. I save the file. To execute the code, I'm going to use the terminal. I type this command followed by the name of the file I want to execute. I press Enter and there is the output. Hello World. Now you might have noticed this button here. With it, you can also execute the program. And that is fine when you are just starting with Python. But the pros use the terminal, and I recommend you to get familiar with it because this will be the place where you manage your project once it grows. For example, when your project contains many Python files or when you start using packages. That said, what is important for now is that you can execute code. So whether you use this button or type in the command manually in the terminal, when you see Hello World in the output, You are ready to continue. During my courses, there are always 1 or 2 computers where the installation is not successful. If that happens to you, write it in the comments and we'll figure out how to fix it together.